Okay, folks, next we've got, again, another panel. We've got three folks here from the development frame of reference. So they're going to share different things. So again, we'll have the three panelists and then we'll have some Q&A at the end. So we're going to start off with Veronica Magasano and from Oxford Properties. So Veronica is the Vice President of Oxford's Canadian Development Team. In her current role, she leads a development activity across select assets in Oxford's mixed use and life science portfolios, including the Square One district in Mississauga. Veronica has been with Oxford over 15 years and has held roles in asset management. Veronica studied mechanical engineering at McMaster University and holds an MBA from the Schulich School of Business at York University. She also holds her professional engineering designation. Veronica is a board member of Downtown West Business Improvement Association, and she is also an active member of the ULI. So Veronica, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited about this video, and to start it off, and over to you.
Well, thank you so much, John, and everybody. It's been so interesting to hear all of the panelists this morning. And before we get going with the animation, let me just reflect on some of the things that I've heard and really what the vision of bringing this Hurontario LRT to the downtown of Mississauga helps us all achieve. I heard many people say that it played a pivotal role in the future growth of their communities. And I certainly, in Oxford, would agree. For us, when we look at the LRT and what it'll bring, we think that it will reduce the space needed for parking and really provide an efficient and carbon effective way for people to get around. And it will also make it easier to access all parts of the city into the GTA and beyond. And as I heard many other people reflect, this will help us attract business, family, and customers to this area, which will make a thriving community. So I'm here today to talk about our Square One district development. It's a meaningful development that involves reimagining what our future communities and cities can look like. And I couldn't be more excited to share this vision with you all today. Before we jump into the future, I'm going to take a minute to reflect in the past. And if you look back to the 1970s, when the Square One shopping mall was developed, it was actually developed around a lot of empty fields. But there was a city master plan at that time that provided a vision for a modern future city center. And so if you look at the downtown of Mississauga today, you can see what's happened over the decades and over the years. Municipal City Hall government offices are located there. We have Sheridan College, Square One, where we've invested over $500 million over the last 10 years. It welcomes over 25 million people through its doors per year. And of course, there's Celebration Square, which provides a place where people can gather in the community, and then Living Arts Center for the Performing Arts, amongst many others. And now we are at this point in time where we are ready to see this vision into the next phase of a modern future city center. So what does that look like? And Victoria, I'm going to ask you to play the animation and let me introduce the Square One district. Perhaps the animation, oh, there we go. So what is today parking lots and underutilized land will be transformed into the largest ever mixed-use development in Canadian history. This will be a place that 35,000 people will one day call home. A place that is walkable, sustainable, and fully connected to transit. The Square One district is a 130-acre, 18 million square foot master planned community. It will feature 18,000 residential units, new office towers, green space, community buildings, and a dedicated transit mobility hub connected to the new Hurontario LRT. And at the heart of the Square One district will be the Strand. And I'll just wait for the image of the Strand to show up. Actually, Victoria, if you can just flip to the next slide, please. Thank you. So this on the screen here you can see is an image of the Strand. You can think of the Strand as Mississauga's Grand Boulevard, with walkable and animated streets, alive with restaurants, cafes, and bars flowing out onto large sidewalks. The Strand will contain community buildings, and at the center of it all, stunning green space for people to congregate. Our goal is for the Strand to become the focal point for all people living and working and visiting in downtown Mississauga. And it will bring all different elements of the Square One district together: office, residential, retail, community buildings, and transit, with green space at the center connecting all of these uses together. The Square One district is an articulation of the City of Mississauga's downtown strategy to create a place where people can live, work, learn, be entertained, raise a family, and want to choose to be. This will be a multi-decade, multi-billion-dollar investment in Mississauga, Ontario. And we are going to build Square One District hand in hand with the city, our partners, and the community. You can flip to the next slide for me. And what I wanted to show you today is how that this is just so much more than a vision, in that we already have shovels in the ground and we are preparing to put more shovels in the ground. What you can see here on the screen are 3 sites that we have made meaningful advancement in terms of our construction and also our entitlement process. On the very left-hand side of the screen is our Block 8 residential projects. This is 2 towers that are under construction, comprising 1,000 units that will be ready and open for occupancy in 2024. And we aren't stopping there. On this site, there are another 3 towers already in the entitlement stages, getting ready to go vertical. We have another residential site to the south. It's called Block 22. And this is the site that will also house a residential project. And of course, at the very north of the site is our office development, currently in the municipal approval process with the City of Mississauga. With no new major office development in a generation, Mississauga's growth also needs office space to help its companies expand and attract the best talent possible. Our plans to build new world-class office space, of which the Hurontario LRT plays a pivotal role in attracting tenants to this building, will create an employment hub at the Square One district. And it will give employers access to a workforce directly in this vicinity. Employees will benefit from the transit mobility and all the amenities from one of the best retail centers in Canada, all on their doorstep. So that's a quick snapshot of everything that's coming down the pipeline in Mississauga over the coming years. And with that, I'll leave it there and I'll turn it back to John.
Awesome. Thank you, Veronica. Very exciting, all those different things. So next, we have Ornella Rishichi and from Plaza Partners. And Ornella is the Chief Development Officer. So Ornella brings more than 30 years of real estate development experience to her role as Chief Development Officer at Plaza Partners. Before joining Plaza Partners, she held leadership positions with the Torgan Group and Smart Centers and built a successful career as a developer from a practice as a professional planner. She is a committed mentor to women in the real estate industry and having served as co-chair of the Women's Leadership Initiative. So Ornella, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Good morning. Thank you so much, John, and thank you for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. This has been very, very interesting to hear the different views and perspectives from all the different speakers this morning. At Plaza Partners, we strive to acquire properties that haven't reached their full potential and create a place where we can create a sense of community for people to live, work, and play. The next slide, please, Veronica. Victoria. Great. So I'm going to speak today briefly about a site that we're very excited about in Mississauga at Hurontario and Eglinton. For those of you who are probably very familiar with it, it consists of an existing office tower and a variety of different type of retail and service commercial uses. So I'm going to touch on the site, the planning framework, and the proposal, and how the LRT has played a major role in this proposed development. Next slide, please. Go to the next. Yeah, thank you. So as I mentioned, this is where the property is located at the corners of Hurontario and Eglinton, which is a very strategic corner in Mississauga and along the LRT route. There is the 9-story office building there, and with additional retail and surface parking. And at the corner is the Wilcox House, which is a 2-story heritage building that has operated as a restaurant for years. I'm sure many people who are listening today have visited that establishment over the years. Next slide, please. What I wanted to show here is you can see where the subject property is outlined in red in the top left corner of the graphic. And this is the existing transit network here in Mississauga. And as you can see, the area is well served by transit as a base framework here. And then we're going to see how, with the introduction of the LRT and connectivity, how this allows this area to better realize its full potential. Next slide, please. So you can see here where the star is on the graphic, and I know it's probably a little bit difficult to read, but what this is showing is in the dark area closest to the site, we have a reach of the transit system being anywhere in that area to this subject property is about a 15-minute commute. The green area represents about 30 minutes and the yellow area about 45 minutes. This is very important in terms of both residential and employment, similar to what Veronica was touching on. There is an existing office here that will be maintained. And for people to commute to and from work in this geographic area, I think it's very important to see how quickly everybody could get there. As well, conversely, when the residential component is online here, how people who live here can get to the other areas of the city and broader region to be able to get to their places of employment. Next slide, please. Next slide. I won't go into detail about the boring planning policy framework here, but I think what we're showing here is there's a lot of layers that we as developers work with the city, with the regions, and different levels of government in order to try and achieve the importance of realizing the full potential of properties, and as they change throughout over the years and re-envision them to a better use, as
You still there, Nella? I think you're.
I'm still here. Yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, I said next slide. Sorry, I was waiting for the switch. Okay. Maybe it's, okay, great. This here just recognizes the importance of intensification in this site. As you can see on the right, there's additional road networks here that are going to help support not only this property, but the area at large from a transportation perspective. Next slide, please. So, we heard a lot today about the LRT, and it is very important to realize that with the development of the LRT, we can realize the greater intensification of the area and the entire corridor along the LRT. If we could go to the next slide, please. So you can see here's obviously the route which we've heard a great deal about today, and the star, as you can see, where this particular property is located. And without this, we would never have been able to, go forward with the proposed redevelopment, which I'm going to speak to the details of later. So it's very important, that we work together with, Metrolinx and others involved in facilitating this type of investment in transit for the region. Next slide, please. Okay, then the next slide, and we'll go into the proposal. So as you can see, there's a site plan on the right hand side here, which shows what this development it will entail. So at the center, you can see we're keeping the existing office building. And what we will do is remove the existing retail that is there today, as well as remove a significant amount of the surface parking there today, and introduce 3 residential towers ranging from 37 to 45 stories and over 1,500 units. Parking will be situated underground. There will be some surface parking to facilitate with retail that will be located at the base of the building. So some of the retail that's there today will relocate, or new retail will come in at the base of the buildings, and the surface parking. We could go to the next slide. So this is just a perspective view of what this will look like in the context of the other buildings that exist there today. Next slide. So I'm just going to walk through some renderings of the property. We worked with Metrolinx throughout their process here of procurement, and we're able to dedicate some land and allow for easements, so to facilitate the LRT adjacent to the site. Next slide, please. So this perspective shows a combined amenity area. So at the surface, we propose some surface parking. So above that surface parking, we're proposing a deck, which will connect all the residential buildings. And this rooftop area can be used as a gathering place for the residents and the people who work here, and various activities that will help create that sense of community that we're looking for. Next slide. This is from the corner. As you can see on the left side of this image, that is the Wilcox Pub, which will remain and form part of, obviously, the redevelopment here. And the office building is what you see in the center, flanked by the 2 proposed residential buildings. Next slide. So this is something we're really proud of here, that we're proposing this open space area at the corner that's going to address, that key intersection of Hurontario and Eglinton, and also in the area where, people will be getting on and off the LRT. And this becomes an open space area that will have, obviously, soft and hard landscaping where people can gather, eat, relax, as well as the existing restaurant is there, which will have a outdoor patio that will oversee this area. So we look this to be an area that is really going to draw people here, not just from the site, but from the broader community as well. Next slide. So I think we just want to summarize that, without the LRT corridor, we would have never been able to realize the potential for bringing this business, residential, and community together here. And it's important to note that this helps make a great place in terms of development. So we look forward to our continued working with the city of Mississauga and all the other agencies, including the LRT and Metrolinx, rather, to help this come to fruition. So thank you. I'll pass that back over to you, John.
Thanks, Renella. Wonderful. Just again, wonderful vision. So Steve from RioCan is going to bring us home. You're a closer today, Steve. So before our Q&A time with the 3 of you, but Steve is an experienced property management and operations professional. Since 2010, Steve has held progressive roles at RioCan, one of Canada's largest real estate investment trusts. In his current role as Regional Director of Operations, Steve and his team are responsible for overseeing one of the largest portfolios of properties in the country, including several along the Hurontario LRT line. In addition to his work at RioCan, Steve currently serves as Director of the Brampton Board of Trade and has previously served as Vice Chair of the Orangeville BIA. So Steve, over to you.
Hey, thanks, John. Some great presentations, and I'm going to try to be as quick as possible here and do a high summary of stuff that we're proud of. At RioCan, we're obviously retail focused, but increasingly got to focus on mixed use, and especially when they're transit oriented. Here's the property right here. It's along the LRT corridor. Today it's called Sandalwood Square. We'll probably be rebranding this to in line with it's called RioCan Bristol because it's right at the Bristol stop on the LRT. There was an unfortunate fire here actually in 2018 that took out about 12,000 square feet. And that's what you can see, this lower quadrant of the property. It used to be just over 100,000 square feet. So now we're just under 100,000 of retail, all amenity focused. We've got medical, we've got a new Fit for Less that just opened, banks, pharmacy. So all that stuff's going to remain. We were able to sever off this quadrant and partner up with Marlin Spring. We're quite excited about that. And next slide, please. Actually, you can go almost to 2 slides. That's basically the tenant mix. I'll fast forward through that, and you can go to the next slide. And this is what we're going to be doing on this quadrant. Again, we've partnered with Marlin Spring. We're going to create 2 residential towers now, right on the Bristol line. It's going to create about 400,000 square feet of GLA. Residential. The 2 towers are going to be 23 stories and 17 stories, unit count of 579. And we're excited because we'll actually have a little bit more retail when we're done. Like there was existing was 12,000, we'll end up just over 14,000. We expect construction to start in 23, so kind of in line for you guys to finish up the LRT line. So that's our exciting project, one of them anyway, for Mississauga. We can go to the next slide really quickly. This was the bird's eye view. Basically, it shows, where you can come in to the property. It stays on the quadrant. There's a roundabout. Shows the 2 buildings. It's going to be shared parking. That's going to be below the 2 buildings with some outdoor amenity space. Next slide, please. This is the beast that's up in what Denise was already alluded to at the gateway, currently at the end of the line, which everybody wants it to continue, which I would support as well. But yeah, currently it's Shoppers World Brampton. Like Denise, I don't know it as Uptown. It's kind of awkward to calling it Uptown when it's actually south of downtown. Anyway, yeah, it's Shoppers World. It's currently 700,000 square feet of retail. It's a beast. Actually, in this drawing, it's carved out, but I mean, where our phase 1A development for the first 2 towers is actually not even going to affect the mall itself today. It's going to be built where it's not even in there, but it's the first 2 towers is on the south portion of this photo. You can take it to the next slide. Today we've got like a whole bunch of different tenants in here. Obviously, we've got long-term leases, especially with the tenants that have exterior access. But we're not even planning on changing this in the immediate, first 5 to even potentially 10 years, or at least till these 2 towers are completed. Obviously, there's bigger play in this, and we're quite excited about the next slide, please. This is the 2 towers that we're going to be putting in. They'll be 35 stories, 363 and 396 units. But the bigger picture on this whole 54 acres is like 4 million square feet of residential, and then we might be down a little bit from the 700,000 of existing retail, but it might be down to 500,000. I mean, we've been catering to our tenants' needs, and it's a little more or less retail, some more residential, some office, and it'll be yeah, we're quite excited about it. Next slide, and I think this is the bigger picture of the long-term version. I'm just kind of trying to wrap this up on time because we're already over, but that's about it. John, you can take it over. I'm happy to answer some questions. Yeah.
Wow, I think all 3 developments just absolutely amazing. I love the thoughtful, integrated thinking that's gone into these kind of developments, which I think is really reflective of the way you've been thoughtful and given so much consideration to the future. So, lastly, folks, again, any questions here for our development team? Again, you can raise your hand. You can type into the Q&A or into the chat. All right, well, it looks like everybody's wrapping, but folks, I just thought each one of those were amazing. And so thank you all for the time in creating your presentations and the thoughtfulness that you've put in organizationally into these, and amazing connections to the Hurontario LRT and the way that brings everything together. So thank you very much.